What's going on, guys? Welcome to another Doctor Who Classic Review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 6th Doctor Colin Baker story, The Trial of a Time Lord Parts 1 to 4, The Mysterious Planet. So The Trial of a Time Lord is something that I've been pretty interested to get into. I've heard mixed reviews about it. Some people say it's a really good season on the whole. Other people say it's not so great. So I was really interested to see what this one would be like. So basically it's a 14-part epic story. However, I think it's 14 parts. However, it's split up into 4 kind of separate stories. So you've got the Mysterious Planet, which is parts 1 to 4, which we're looking at today. Parts 5 to 8 is Mind War. That's a separate story again, but you know, with the whole court scene, the trial thing going on in the background. Then you've got parts, what would it be, 9 to... I think it's 9 to 12, which is Terror of the Vervoid, and then you've got parts 13 and 14, which is The Ultimate Foe. So it's the whole thing's about this trial that the Doctor's on. However, there's kind of separate stories. There's 4 separate stories within it. So the Mysterious Planet is the first story in this season, in this whole big story as a whole. So yeah, I was really interested to see what this would be like. But anyway, this is The Mysterious Planet by Robert Holmes. The Doctor is on trial for his life. Plucked out of time and space by the Time Lords, he is charged with transgressing the first laws of time. He must defend himself against the prosecution led by the sinister Valeyard. The trial begins as the Time Lords review an adventure from the Doctor's recent past. The setting is Ravolox, where the Doctor and Peri find themselves caught in the conflict between a warrior tribe, a pair of intergalactic con men, and a godlike robot. But deep below the surface of the mysterious planet lie secrets that threaten the very fabric of the universe, and to protect them, drastic measures have been taken that will shock the Doctor to his very core. So a fairly nice little plot synopsis on the back of the DVD there. Yeah, this is really, it starts off with the Doctor getting put on trial, and basically the Valeyard just shows the Doctor and the whole court this adventure that he went on to kind of, you know, I don't know, I don't know, just to show everyone what he's talking about, why he's putting the Doctor on trial and that. I'll get onto more of that a bit later, but yeah, anyway, let's start this one off as we always do with the cast. So we start with Colin Baker as the 6th Doctor, and I'm gonna be honest, I actually really like the 6th Doctor in this story. Now, I've only seen 4 of his stories, his other stories from season 22, the season before this. Obviously this whole season, season 23, the whole thing is Trial of a Time Lord. I haven't seen any of them, this is the first one I've seen. And then I've only seen Attack of the Cybermen, Vengeance on Varos, The Two Doctors, and Revelation of the Daleks in season 22. So, and I haven't seen The Twin Dilemma from 21. So I was actually quite pleasantly surprised when I saw that the 6th Doctor seems to be much more like the Doctor in this season, at least so far. In season 22, he's very rude. He just doesn't feel like the Doctor, and I don't really like Colin Baker's Doctor because of how he is in season 22. But at least in this one, at least in this story so far, he seems he's not as rude. He still has his moments, but he's nowhere near as rude as he was before. He's just more caring for Peri, which is something that I never, you know, he never seemed really that caring for Peri or really anyone before in season 22. So he's much more caring in this one. He just feels more like the Doctor, and straight away, literally 5 or 10 minutes in, I could tell that this was a different side of Colin Baker's Doctor, and I liked it a lot more. So I was very happy about that. Nicola Bryant as Peri. Yeah, she's okay. I've pretty much said this every time I've talked about Peri. I don't hate Peri, but I don't exactly love her either. She's just a companion that's like, yeah, she's there. She doesn't really do a whole lot most of the time. The American accent, I've said it before, it does annoy me a little bit. Of course, Nicola Bryant isn't American, she's British, she's putting on the accent, and I think it really, you can really tell that it's a put on accent. It really does wind me out sometimes. Fake American accents really do bug me quite a lot, because they're just so noticeable a lot of the time, and that is definitely the case here. But I mean, even then, as a character, I just don't think Peri's the most amazing. My main criticism of her, from what I've seen of her in the previous season, is that I don't understand why she's with the Doctor, because pretty much every time I've seen her with him, he's been putting her down and being really rude to her. That's not the case in this one, so I can kind of, I don't really have that to complain about, but at the same time, I just don't think she does a whole lot. Yeah, I don't know, I'm interested to see what else happens with her. Of course, Mind Warp, if you don't know, the next in Trial of a Time Lord is her final story, so I'm interested to see what happens with her there, because here, yeah, she's just kind of okay. Alright, so on to the good and the bad, starting off with the good. Some of the model shots and CGI still hold up to today. Now, I don't think these are updated CGI and model shots. I don't think so. As far as I know, I actually looked at a video uploaded by Josh Snares or someone like that. I think that's his name, on YouTube. He uploaded it actually only about a week ago or something, where he kind of went over all the CGI changes in the classic series when, you know, brought to DVD and Blu-ray. And I don't believe the Mysterious Planet was on there. So from what I can tell, from what I gathered, this is how it was originally done. Of course, it's kind of been remastered and made to look better with the DVD release, but the actual effects and all the CGI and stuff, they are the original ones. And I was actually pretty blown away from the opening shots. That's really the only time we actually see these really good CGI and model shots. But the opening shot of, you know, the big kind of space station thing, which I'm guessing is what the trial is being conducted on. You've got the TARDIS kind of flying down to it, getting sent down to it. Yeah, I think those shots at the beginning of the first episode, the first part, were just really good shots, and I was actually like, this is like 1980. What is this? 1985, 1986. 86, I think, isn't it? Probably shot in 85, but yeah, the mid-80s, and I thought this actually looks really good. The idea of the Doctor being on trial is an interesting one. Yeah, like I said before, I was quite interested to see what this was all about. I kind of always figured that the whole trial thing was, you know, the Doctor, he left Gallifrey, he stole the TARDIS and buggered off, and, you know, yeah, I mean, he stole the TARDIS and went off and did his own things, meddled with history a little bit, I suppose, although he does, you know, supposedly know what he's doing most of the time. But I kind of figured that was kind of what was going to be going on with this trial, you know, the Time Lords are finally saying, right, you stole the TARDIS, you're doing stuff in history and changing the way things are, this needs to be stopped. And that's basically what's going on here, but I do like how we've actually got a story focused around that. I think it's a really cool concept that did kind of not necessarily needed looking into, but I think it's something that definitely could be looked into, and I'm glad it was. Glitz and Dibber, two of the characters in this story, are comedic but not over the top. I think Glitz and Dibber are really pretty interesting characters, actually. Straight away I saw Glitz and I thought, this guy looks very familiar. Of course, this is his first appearance, but I think he appears in The Ultimate Foe, the final story of Trial of the Time Lord, but where I know him from is Dragonfire. He appears in the 7th Doctor story from season 24, Dragonfire, you know, the last one for Mel, the one where Ace is introduced, and I knew I saw him from somewhere. Literally, I was looking at him and thinking, I've definitely seen this guy somewhere, and the name sounds familiar as well. So I looked it up, and yeah, of course, I've seen him in Dragonfire, so now I do know his kind of backstory, at least so far. So yeah, and just altogether, those two characters, Dibber's a little more forgettable, but Glitz, I think the actor does a really great job. He's funny, he's comedic, but it's not over the top, and that is something I will get to in a second with over the top acting, comedic acting, because I think there is another character in the story that is trying to be the same sort of character as Glitz and Dibber, but it doesn't really work as well. Only other thing I really have to say about the good is the Doctor trying to show Drathro how human life is important. Now, Drathro is the big robot. He is a massive robot. He's probably about 2 meters tall or something. He's a bloody big robot, and he looks decent. I'm not so sure about the head. It's kind of this weird, almost looks like a skateboard ramp. His head, a little bit strange, and you know, he's got a pretty normal robot voice. He's nothing particularly special, but I think he's a pretty decent looking robot. Yeah, the Doctor trying to, you know, show him that human life is important, you know, because he's gonna, you know, blow up this whole thing, and he figures out that it's gonna kill him as well. And then, you know, the Doctor says, well, you have the option, you're gonna die anyway, so do this, only you die, or you do what you're gonna do, and you plus all the humans die. And he's like, don't care about the humans, if I'm gonna die, then I'm bringing them with me. The Doctor tries to show him that, you know, the human life is important and everything. It doesn't really work out, but in the end, I think Glitz and Dibber end up who ends up destroying? Did Glitz and Dibber do it? I can't remember. I think they end up destroying Drathro in the end, but I thought there was a really good scene. There was a nice little speech as well from the Doctor through that whole human life thing with Drathro. So I thought, yeah, altogether I did quite enjoy that scene. Alright, so on to the bad. There is a bit to talk about. First of all, where did Gallifrey get all the footage from? Now, I'm not 100% sure, but I think in episode 2 or 3, they said something about the TARDIS, about how when the TARDIS is in the vicinity of the area, it has like surveillance footage and stuff. I don't really buy that, if that was the case. I'm not 100% sure if that's what they were talking about, but I think that's what they were talking about, because, you know, the Doctor's like, how are we seeing all this stuff, you know, not involving the Doctor with, like, glitz and dibber and stuff when the Doctor's not around? And they said something about the TARDIS, and there's some surveillance thing, so I'm guessing that's what they were talking about. It just doesn't really work for me. I don't understand how this works. You know, they're watching this on a screen, basically as we're watching it. I mean, you see the transitions into the screen. It just doesn't really work for me. The whole story is a bit cheesy at times. There are definitely moments of cheesiness that I don't think work. It works with glitz and dibber because they're not too over the top, but there's some other characters that it doesn't really work for. For example, Queen Katrika, I think that's how you say it. She's very camp, very, very camp. You know how she's like going into battle and, you know, holding the gun up and running around and screaming and yelling, and I didn't really like the Queen character. She just kind of annoyed me a bit, so that was a bit disappointing. And then the only other thing I've got to say for the bad is the ridiculous cliffhangers zooming in on the Doctor's face. Even though I haven't seen this story, I've heard about the terrible cliffhangers that are in Trial of a Time Lord. Out of the 4 parts, so there was a cliffhangers to parts 1, 2, 3, and 4 because it carries on into the next story. Out of all them 4 cliffhangers, 3 of them were just zooming in on the Doctor's face, which is so anticlimactic, and it just looks a bit silly, to be honest. Okay, so the Trial of a Time Lord, the mysterious planet. What did I think of it? I thought it was okay. I don't think it was anything mind-blowing, but I don't think it was anything terrible either. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. I was kind of thinking, oh, could I give it a 7? I think I might have given it a 7 if it wasn't part of Trial of a Time Lord, because the thing with this one, and I'm interested to see how the other stories go about this one in particular, I don't really see why the Valiard showed this particular story, this particular adventure. I don't really, I mean, I can understand elements of it, but on the whole, and I mean, even by the end, the Doctor's like, well, and even kind of the, in whatever she's called, the Inquisitor, she doesn't really seem to know why this is happening and all this is going on. It just seems like a bit of a random thing to show, you know? Like, he saved this whole planet. Yes, there are other consequences, you know, other people died there, and if the Doctor wasn't there, maybe things would have gone differently, maybe things would have turned out better, but there's a good chance they wouldn't, and I just don't really see why the Valiard showed this in particular, you know? I don't really understand that. So because of that, and a few other problems, I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. It's definitely watchable and it's relatively interesting, but the story itself isn't that engaging that I really get too into it. And yeah, like I said, the whole thing where it doesn't really feel like it connects in that well puts me off a little bit, so a 6 out of 10. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe. Go into the description, follow me on Twitter, that would be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you guys in the next video.